video, what I'd like to talk to you about is the devil. So we're going to write out the devil's name. We're just going to say the devil. Okay? And it's very easy to appear like a devil. It's so easy, it's in the word itself. The way to be the appearance of the devil is just to be evil. Okay? That is the image. The image of evil can be considered the image of the devil. And one of the ways you can have this image of the devil is the mindset. One's mindset on evil. Just as plain as simple as that. Doesn't get any more simpler. The mindset is evil. It plots out wickedness against the character that is jealous of, it's envious of, and it tries to deceive it through deceit. Okay? As if the character can't see it coming if it's smart enough. Sometimes you can see your own death coming. It's just like a glimpse into the final destination of your life. Now the mindset is evil, and this is considered the image of the devil. What occurs out of this is pollution, okay? Which means the thought within your mind has been polluted. It's got a lot of pollution, trash. Just trash thoughts going on inside of your mind. It stinks. That's called stinking thinking. Okay? If you haven't heard of it, now you have. So the stinking thinking that you got going on has created this mindset of evil, which to be the image of the devil is to be prideful. Okay? Prideful. So as you all know, the month Pride, it's because they're arrogant and they're prideful in their egos. So they're egotistic maniacs. They're egotistic maniacs. And that's because they have this prideful ego to want to dominate everything around them and put it into submission. This is the image of the devil. The devil wants you to submit. So he needs you in submission. He wants you to tap out. Tap out and bow a knee to him. Why? Because then he takes the power away from God. By taking the image of God out of you and turning you into the image of the devil. Very simple. The rules are simple. Good or evil. It's that simple. Now, how can you get the image of the devil? Sometimes you're born into the devil's image. Because your mom and your dad are the devil's image. Okay, now your child, because mother and father are the devil's image, the child most likely is at a 90% chance that it's going to come out to do the same following thing. Follow the parents. Okay? So in order that you're going to experience this devil experience, you may be born into the experience of the devil. And one way they do that is born into sins. Okay? So now the devil's image is born into sins. And this is why you need to be reborn in the spirit. Because you're born into sin. You're born into the devil's image. The demon. The image of a demon. A devil. That's why it's so easy to maintain the image compared to maintaining the image of God. It's very hard to upkeep and to obtain and to honor with truth and righteousness and justice, because it is difficult. It's not easy to maintain the image of God. That shows you how hard it is to be a God. Okay? It's very difficult. It's so difficult the devil couldn't even maintain his position. He fell from a God to a lowercase God, which was a low deity of under God, which means he had some type of powers, some type of ability that surpassed one's understanding of physicality, which the only way you could get that power was through spirituality and not being bound to flesh and blood. That would be one of the ways, okay? And the reason why you wouldn't want to be bound to flesh and blood, because flesh and blood can freeze up under temperatures that are very freezing. Frigid temperatures like heaven's temperatures. Okay, heaven has a specific temperature, I think, below negative 250 to negative 500 or something like that. It's so cold, it's literally freezing cold to the physical. The physical can't even withstand it. So, and man doesn't have the ability to maintain the power of heat. Okay? To withhold the power of heat within the body. They'll be lying if they said they could. The body generates heat, but it can't generate it when it's freezing outside. It starts to drop in temperature, and then you go below a certain temperature, you go into hypothermia. You start to die. Your blood starts to freeze up. Your water inside the blood starts to freeze. So you're born into the sin. When you're born into the sin, you're born into the devil's image. Not everybody sins right away. It's called the innocent state, the infant. Don't they call it infantry? What is infantry if it's not infant? Innocent. And it's like a mockery to children. It's like a mockery to babies. You know, when they say infantry, it is. To be lying to say it isn't. I didn't create the word. They did. Which means they're the ones mocking. They're the ones laughing. Ha, 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 ha. Look at the frontline infantry. And one of the ways you can be the image of the devil is being low level in education. Is poorly educated. Because the devil is poorly educated. He fell. There's nothing educational about him. If you look at the image of the devil, it's poorly educated. Okay, it's poorly educated, which will lead you to a low-level conscious being. Okay, low-level conscious beings are like in hell. Okay, it's like being in hell. High-level conscious beings is like being in heaven. But being too smart for your good, then you'd be considered Lucifer or Satan, who became arrogant in the ego, which became prideful. Okay, and it became evil within the thought of the ego. And they started sinning. They weren't born into sin, but they started to sin against God. And they became poorly educated beings. Okay, this is considered the devil's image. Anything that's poorly educated is low-level consciousness, is at the bottom of my feet, if I was to use it as a footstool. So to understand that knowledge is the power. then you would understand that knowledge is the power, but that's not of the devil's power. That's of God's power. God is the almighty God of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Okay? So it's not of the devil's image to be smart. Anyone to mock the image of smart is of the devil. I want you to understand that. So anyone in school that mocks somebody who's smart and highly educated is of the devil if they're making fun of you and you have ran into a devil. And what the devil does is he wants to strip you of your power. It's like stripping butt naked in front of a bunch of people. He's going to take your power away. And everybody's going to laugh at you. So he strips man of power. Okay? Taking the power away from man. Who has the authority to rule over serpents and scorpions, lions and young lions, and even cobras, king cobras, okay? Serpents, even over the ancient serpent dragon. Man has more power than the serpent ancient dragon. I want you to understand that. He fell below man. And he was once third in command. So, just to show you how high of command he was, Leviathan was once under Christ. Okay, it was the Father, Christ, then Leviathan in the ranks. That's why it states he knocked him out with his tail. That's when the 1/3 fell. He said, let's go. And they broke the oath against God. This is during the time of the war in heaven. Okay? When the angels went to war with the 1/3. But they weren't strong enough to defeat the 2. The 66.6%. Okay? The infinite number of the 66.6. The 1/3, which is the time you sleep, and the time you're awake is what? 2/3. So you should know something about yourself. And when you're awake, you're supposed to be the image of God, which was the 2/3 that defeated the fallen. When you sleep, you are falling asleep. Hello? I thought you were educated and smart down here. Why a man that has poorly educated, right? That's what you would assume I was, poorly educated, because I had no education degree. But I did pay attention to things that people were saying. I just didn't know how to access the information. The brain. I didn't know how to use it. That's what poorly educated is. You understand that, right? Poorly educated means you do not know how to use the brain's capacity of understanding, using the knowledge that you have within your mind to access everything you need to get to the wisdom of God. Okay? So you have the wisdom of the devil. Okay? The wisdom of the devil. If you haven't heard of that yet, congratulations. Today, you learned something. The wisdom of the devil is everything from the tree of evil. Knowledge. Okay? Even though God controls it, God doesn't put it in his, even though he controls it, he controls it to make sure that it's in control to a certain degree. When it starts to get out of control, to where the point where it's no longer controllable through the laws, and the laws can't control it anymore, then it's considered to be an outlaw. Okay, and then you'd be out against the law. You'd be breaking the law to the point where you're out against the law. You don't care to seek the ability to control yourself. Okay? So you have no control. That's the devil's image. No control over its character. And that's the final piece to this devil's mindset and image. That the one who has the devil's image has no control over their character, their image. They have no control. They've lost all control of the ability to maintain their character and the truth. Okay? So everything will become manipulation tactics. Even a narcissist at its finest. Okay? A narcissist is just a liar. That's all it is. A pathological liar is a narcissist. Easiest way to give you a definition to it is pathological liar. Okay? It wants to manipulate you and deceive you into doing what it wants. It wants you to be its servant. Okay? A lot of these people were these servants that were inside of the Bible and decided to, hey, we can enslave people this way. Okay? And it's another tactic for slavery. Okay? That's a narcissist. It wants to enslave you. It wants you to be under its foot so it can be your master. And you do what it says. You do what the sensei says. But in my book, you should be very cautious to the wisdom of the devil. Because this evil will strip man of its power. It'll lose all power. All ability to control itself. It'd be born into sin, poorly educated, which means low-level consciousness. It'd be pride in their ego, and it'd become LGBTQ. The mindset is evil. It's stuck in time. It's not moving forward. It's not moving backwards. Time not moving at all. It's literally them lost within time. Even though time is ticking, their time has stopped growing in time. You're supposed to be growing forward in time. That's why time moves forward. You're going forward into the future of your life to experience the wisdom of God, which is growing your intelligence. Some people may be saying it reading books, but you got to understand that if you're going to read a book, it has to be the book of truth. It can't be a book of fantasies. Who wants to fantasize all day? Just the image of a fantasy. And it's the image of the devil. The devil fantasized about him kicking God's ass. But did he do it? No. But it sure was a fantasy of his. And he realized quickly that he couldn't do anything but cry. And that's exactly what he did when he got his ass whooped by Michael. Okay? He cried lots of tears as he was being dragged here and thrown out of the heavens and bound to the earth. A place where he would die shortly if he didn't change his ways. Which means his ego. Okay? If he doesn't change his prideful ego, he's going to die. So his ego must change, which means his mindset, which is his ego. Okay? The devil will die, your leader. That's down here leading you demons. Okay? That are on demon time. Your leader will die. Ego. Egotistic, maniac, psychopath, okay? Trained in deceiving you into being within this sin, okay? And then your sin it'll build your character. Sin builds character, but in a negative way. Evil, okay? It's considered the devil's image. It'll strip man of its power. Man no longer has power. no longer has the power to stamp over scorpions and serpents and young lions. Young lions is basically a young teenager or young adult that is going to be high in their ego. Okay? That's what it means to be a young lion. It's going to roar like a lion. It's going to be very tough to beat if you're an old man. But what beats a young man is wisdom. The wisdom of God will always be the young man. Why? Because they're not considered to be the wise yet. They're still working on to be the wise. Some of them are born with the gift, though. If you're born with the spiritual gift of being wise, be blessed. Call it a blessing. But that's only because you seeked it. Not because you were deserving of it. You seeked it. And that was one of the things you seeked. You seeked after the gift of wisdom, which was to be wise. You seen that fit to get whatever you wanted out of the wisdom. Whatever you were seeking. This is considered to be the seeker of truth. Okay, that's what the real definition of wisdom is. The real definition of wisdom is the seeker of truth. One that seeks the truth no matter what the lie is that was told to them. That they won't always have to believe the person to be truthful. That they're seeking for the truth, but it may not be within that character. And that's when you find out whether the character is either a liar or a truthful character. Can it withhold truth whenever it's put under pressure? That's where you're going to find the real truth of a character. When it's put under pressure, can it still manage to tell the truth, or shall it lie under the oath? As so did the fallen angels did. The devil, the image of the devil. Did he not lie in the Garden of Eden? Surely you shall not die, and you should be wise as God. Which man has ever been as wise as God when he's 1,000 years behind every day? So that was a lie. You could never be as wise as God. First off, you're in the beginning. When you fell. The very beginning. Okay, so you didn't even make it that far into the very first experience of your life before you fell and became this devil of a character. So, to the point where you literally told children to cut off sexual organs and mutilate themselves to maintain what it is you wanted from them, which is to have sex with children. Pedophilia behavior. Being demonstrated within the hierarchy system, then being televised on the news as appropriate, is what I saw. And it made me want to lock and roll a rifle called Right to Bear Arms, Second Amendment, and walk down there to the White House and just shoot everything up. Okay? Not to go to prison or anything, but it's to stand up and right to bear arms. We are the people. We have the right to take back the government and put order back into place. Okay? The government doesn't tell us how to run the world. We operate as a unison, together, as one. But when they confuse the masses into being this gay community, obviously you are part of the Decepticons and you have deceived many into a great lie called the Great Deception. This is the age of the Decepticons, which are aka the Transformers. If you've never watched the movie, you might want to watch it again. They became prideful in their ego and they were the devil's image. This was the LGBTQs. Transformers, 07 and 86. If you didn't know, the 2 times the movies dropped. One was an animation, the other one was more not animation, but still was. Because it's about robots transforming, which is actually your children transforming. And this happened in 07. Who was your Transformer leader? 08, Obama. Okay? So they dropped Transformers in 07. Then you got your Transformer leader. okay, who was having a transgender in the position of a woman, identifying herself as a woman, which would later identify himself later as a man again. Which, if you didn't, you get it? Mannequin? So, you know, it's a fake character. Did you ever never seen a mannequin? He wasn't able to cut his penis off. I mean, how are you going to stop the blood from flowing? And where are you going to reroute the piss? I didn't think anybody thought about that one, huh? Where are you going to reroute your piss hole? You ever thought about that one? What you going to piss out your... You want to do the little doggy lift? You going to lift your leg?